So specifically regarding terminations, what are some of the key considerations to properly implement these decisions?
Well, Laura, one is employers are tentative to let employees go right now. I've spoken to many employers who have asked me whether they're legally allowed to let employees go during the pandemic or whether there's a heightened risk of doing so. Now, to be very clear, the answer I've given them all is employers can still let employees go without cause in just about every jurisdiction across the country during the pandemic. That general rule that can happen at any time has not changed. But another key consideration is employers don't always turn their minds to the true cost of dismissals. I said a moment ago, terminations are costly. Employers many, many times have let an employee go or started thinking about doing so and then suddenly suffer from sticker shock when they realize how much it really costs. Now, terminations are costly, particularly in non-unionized environments, but unionized environments as well. The vast majority of terminations are going to be without cause, and really all that are done because of downsizing will be as well. And in those cases, employees have termination entitlements in Canada. Many employers believe that they can just let employees go by simply paying out the statutory entitlements under the applicable provincial employment standards legislation. And as many will know, those generally require employers to provide a relatively limited number of weeks of notice or pay in lieu of that notice. And in certain provinces like Ontario, some additional entitlements like severance pay for certain employees. But what many of these employers don't realize is that if they're non-unionized or if they're letting go a non-unionized employee, those employees are also going to be entitled to the much greater common law reasonable notice standard unless there's an enforceable termination clause in the employee's employment contract. And that, as many will know, but again, many don't, is a much greater entitlement than the statutory entitlements that I spoke about. They generally start from about 2 or 3 months, all the way up to about 24 months and potentially even higher than that in some circumstances, as these common law notice entitlements are intended to provide enough notice to bridge employees until they can be reasonably expected to get another comparable job. Now, that notice period, as I said, there's a big range that they can be. They depend on a lot of different factors. The really key one that the courts tend to look at are age, period of service, and level of authority of the role, with the general principle being the older the employee, the longer the employee's service, the higher the level of their role is, the longer the notice period is going to be. Now, another thing to keep in mind right now specifically, common law entitlements are higher really than they are at other times, because again, they're based on how long it's going to take an employee to get another job. And with the unemployment rate as high as it is now, as you said, 13+%, it's harder to find jobs in just about every industry across the country than usual, therefore longer notice periods to get those other jobs.